Wife of 7 years cheated again. I've been married for 7 years, and the first 3 years was full of hurtful lies, mental abuse, and cheating. I left at one point and got my own place. We were separated for 8 months, and during this time I discovered how to not hate myself anymore. When I got out of the army, I gained a little weight, and she called me fat and said she was no longer sexually attracted to me anymore. I stayed faithful. And as God as my witness, I have stayed loyal and faithful since the day I promised I would. I have financially supported her and our children. We have 4 kids together, 3 at the time of separation. I have had my problems and have done things that I shouldn't have in our marriage. Her cheating led to me having severe trust issues and borderline crazy jealousy. But to be fair, at one point, she worked at a restaurant and had slept with her ex of 5 years. The one she was with before me, who also worked there, and then had a whole-ass relationship with another guy she worked with. She'd done this by telling everyone at her work that I was fat and ugly now, and she was only with me for my money, and because of this, we had an open relationship. It gets worse. She then invited me to come eat while she worked, so they could all laugh at me. So that F***CKD me up, however, back on track. While we were separated, I was very down on myself. Hated the way I looked and truly believe I couldn't find a good woman to want me. And then I met a girl named, let's say, Lindsay. She was 21 and started working at my company. I was 25 at the time. She was beautiful and smart, not to mention hilarious. We had a lot in common. She was going through a divorce with a man in the army who had cheated on her. We started off as friends because neither of us were ready for anything beyond that. It quickly turned ****, and within a few months we're catching ourselves moving very fast and kind of falling for each other. She was way out of my league is what I believed at first, but because of her and the constant attention I got from random women at bars and co-workers, who I never would have dreamed would be into me, I realized that worth so much more than she had made me believe. Once she realized I was seeing Lindsay, she all of a sudden wanted to start over and fix things for the kids. She said she would change and promised she realized what she lost. I had also started putting effort into my appearance again. I dropped Lindsay and took my wife back. We later moved states. It was hard getting back together with her, especially after finding out while we were split she had slept with most of Lamai. So called friends and told everyone we knew that I was a deadbeat dad and treated her so poorly. Again, when I moved out, I paid my bills and apartment rent, and also left her our house and both cars and paid the $1,800 mortgage, both car notes, all the bills, and have her $1,500 extra for spending money. I also had my kids at my apartment for days and nights out of the week so she could party. We moved and it took a long time, but I forgave her. And for the last few years, she has been faithful and supportive. She has treated me like a wife should, until 6 months ago. My dad passed away and I gave him CPR for 26 minutes trying to save his life. This sent me into a depression and spiral because of this. I became sad and wouldn't be cheerful all the time. I also lost *** interest due to my depression. I didn't stop sleeping with her altogether, just went from 3 or 4 times a week to 2 times a month, sometimes more, but never less. But I slowly gained my happiness back, and my best friend Rue played a huge part in that. I thought was my best friend. I trusted him so much I didn't question anything at all. When my wife would hang out with him while they waited for me to get home working or whatever I did, like I really trusted this bitch. My wife had her tubes tied so she can't have another baby. However, it's possible to get pregnant and have what's called a tubal pregnancy. I'm a recovering addict, and after losing my dad, I relapsed. I went to rehab for 5 weeks. During this time, my wife went to visit her family back home. When I came home, she did also, and she was having some stomach pains and her stomach was bloated. She kept saying she was afraid she was pregnant. I didn't remember having S**X before I left, but she convinced me we did. I came into her room one day and she was crying and said she thinks God was punishing her by making her pregnant. As a joke, I said, if you are that sad about it, it's because it's not mine, and I said, whose is it? I can't tell you how painful my stomach felt when she looked up so me and said it may be ruse. FYI, she wasn't pregnant, but come to find out she had been fooling around with him and texting him for the last few months, and they slept together at his mom's house where he lived, while I was there talking to his mom. She's always been like an aunt to me, and I was venting about missing Dad, and she slept with him 3 rooms down. She has cried and begged me to not leave her and has said how much she regrets it over and over. But I don't know anymore. What about me makes people who are supposed to be my friends betray me, and what makes the woman? I have done everything in my power to love unconditionally, and support want to cheat on me and break my heart. I want nothing more than to do the very best thing for my kiddos. And it's scary that she can make me believe that the best thing for them would be for me to end my life. That's a shitty place to be. Sorry for the long-ass book. I've never told this story before. Hate how pathetic I feel thinking about all this shit she put me through, and me still bending over backwards to make her happy. Story number 2. I 3 am divorcing my wife 33F after finding out that my son 5M is not mine. Well, a couple of weeks ago I found out that my wife cheated on me 6 years ago. The way I found out is that her sister told me after going to visit her to find out how the delivery of her first child was. She confessed to me that 6 years ago my wife told her that she slept drunk with her best friend. In her words, my wife was very sorry. At the time she told me I was with my son, and immediately after leaving her house I went to take a paternity test with him, fearing the worst. A week later I get the results and my fears came true. My son is not mine. For some reason, I began to see the boy differently, more as an acquaintance than a son. With proofs in hand, I confronted my wife at night when the child was sleeping. She asked me who told me, and I simply told her that it is none of her business. Although obviously it will not take long to connect the dots that it was her sister. Well, that is not my problem now. Regardless of that, I asked her for a divorce, which is now in process. She was devastated. She swore to me more than once that nothing happened with anyone again, that she has been faithful to me in body and soul since then. I held back the urge to insult her to avoid complications during the divorce issue, not believing a word she said, mostly blaming the alcohol instead of taking the blame herself. After talking about it, she threatened me, saying that she would demand full custody of the child. I was so annoyed at that moment that I told her okay, I don't want anything to do with something that is not mine, that she keep the child and I'll keep the dogs. We have 2 dogs that we adopted as puppies, and they are currently 8 years old each. After my words, she tried to convince me to take care of the child with her, that I am his father. At that moment I exploded. I was so angry and I had held back so much the urge to scream that I just yelled her to go and take her bastard with her. A week has passed since that, and I am at home. It is in my name because it is a gift from my parents. She went to her parents' house with her kid. She has not called me since then. She left with everything and the half-asleep kid when I yelled at her, especially since it was the first time I really yelled at her. It sure affected her. I talked to my parents and my dad told me that I did the right thing and that I shouldn't be raising something that is not of my blood. And I agree with him. However, the pain is still there. My younger brother told me to write here to entertain myself. I'm currently seeing a therapist 3 times a week, who told me that I have already taken the first step, which was to leave behind what causes me pain. It just hurts to know that my family no longer exists. Regarding why my sister-in-law told me everything. According to her, she felt guilty seeing me always happy with my son, knowing that he may not be mine. and that the fact that we went to visit her in a moment of weakness caused her to completely break down with guilt. I don't know how true that is. I just know that right now I feel tremendous hatred for my wife and a feeling between pain and resentment for the child. Although it's just time to get ahead, I just hope the divorce goes smoothly. We have separate financiers and properties, and if she really asks for child support, I have proof that it's not mine. According to my lawyer, that's more than enough if she tries a legal process for that. My therapist also recommended that I not see him nor her. That regardless of the child's feelings, I should focus on my own first. That the child is no longer my problem, and the sooner I accept it, the better. Sorry for the misspellings. English is not my first language.